Okay, hi everyone. We are here with the roundtable tonight. We are very happy to have everyone and all of you joining us in any moment in time that you do that. We are always happy to connect with all of you. So, yes, here we are. So, our topic tonight is equality, and I'm joined here. I'm Max, your host, and I'm joined by Kimberly, Summer, and Nikki that are here, and we will talk about the topic. So the first thing that we're going to do is to introduce everyone, and so let's start with Kimberly.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kimberly. I am a channel. I am an Ascension teacher. I'm a counselor and a light language alchemist. And I bring forth the Ascension teachings, and the Ascension teachings are basically empowerment teachers to empower your life. Basically, it's built on the premise that we're already enlightened beings. We've just forgotten. So the process involves oneness teachings and shadow work, and bridging that with, searching for your passions, focusing on what you prefer, but also not ignoring, your triggers. So it's that combination. And what that does is that basically we're a giant onion, and it's like peeling back the layers, basically. So as we do that shadow work, and as we integrate the oneness teachings within us, what happens is that we start to remember more and more who we are, our oneness. And then that's when we activate naturally more of our, psychic abilities. And we receive clarity on our Pacific Love missions here. And live more in joy and in peaceful harmony. And those triggers become more of a slight irritation. So it does become easier and easier. And love what I do, and love being here. And hello, everybody watching.
So next, let's go to Summer.
Hi, my name is Summer. I am someone who tries to put things in perspectives that are everyday, practical understandings of ascension and awakening, so that you can unlock the secret enjoyments that you don't even know that you are in life. It's my passion, it's my pleasure, it's why I'm here, and I hope I can be of service to all of you.
And Nikki.
Hi, everyone. I'm now in Florida. Usually I'm in France, and I'm happy to be on this panel with all of you. I'm an Ascension teacher, a channel, and an energy therapist. And I think we are all sharing common goals, which is to be of service through our own processes as we move from fear to joy. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally for me, so I work with worth, wealth, abundance. So realizing our worth, our abundance, and leaving behind what keeps us as unworthy and therefore lackful as human beings as we are absolutely creating a lot of lack around us and for everyone, so that we become so sad and everything is missing and we want so much more of everything. So and many things else, but this is the main work I'm doing right now. And so tonight, the first thing that we're going to have is our attunement language of light with Kimberly. That is ready.
Yeah. Do you have your crystal bowls too, Max?
Yes.
If it's not out of the way already. By the way, I love your holiday in the background over there.
Yeah, you see it? And the balls are just behind.
Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who've joined the round table before, you are probably familiar with the light language alchemy. So I channel healing and ascension source codes because I channel the beings of the light. They refer to them as harmonies of creation and codes of the gods. And so basically, you know, they did tell me a lot about what it is. So basically, it's just meditation on steroids. It helps to activate your dormant DNA, helps to significantly raise your vibration, helps to lift any stagnant energy within you to bring it up to the surface. So because of that, everyone has different experiences. Often you feel a movement of energy through you. You might have, you know, certain memories come up to your forefront, whatever needs to be released. Yeah, you might feel certain sensations in your body. So everyone's different with this. Depends how sensitive you are to energy. And I also channel the Divine Elohim as I do this. And yeah, beings of the light have named it. Well, basically, Goddess Isis was my teacher in this lifetime, in many lives with this. And she has named it, well, guided me to call it Sacred Sound Alchemy. So yeah, it's using my vocal light language. I do also hand sign it as well. Yeah, we'll just do a brief one today. But yeah, I also print it with session intentions. So I'll ask the panelists here, what would you like me to imprint the session with today? What would be your intentions? To find unity maybe? Because I know the subject's equality perhaps. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I've got one, which is moving through triggers with ease and grace.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Love it.
What about does anyone else have any others, or we'll go with that? And I'll sprinkle it with if everybody listening to receive any downloads or activations that will assist them in whatever's needed for everyone's high score. Yeah, let's sprinkle it with that. Is there any other intentions?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm good with that. Go ahead.
Well, pretty much the same. Just to I guess to unlock into the flow and put it like that.
The flow sounds good. All right, let's do it. All right. Well, I do usually do it like when I do these. Sometimes I do like a guided opening. So what I do, just to keep it more brief, I'll just jump right into the light language, and usually there is a guided section at the end. So yeah, I'll just invite everybody to close their eyes and you know, focus on your breath. Slow the breath down, and yeah, listen to the beautiful sounds of Max's crystal bowls. And in a few moments, I'll start the light language.
Adeo kui di su doi hi. Adeo kui di su doi hi. Adoi hi sui di kui hi. Adeo ki dui hi dui hi. Ardeo sui di cur dui hi. Ardeo cur sui di dui hi. arte kui suiti kui itui ki tui usui tui utu itui ki tui Take a deep breath in. And exhale. As you breathe in universal life force energy that connects you and all life, that connects you to the remembrance of all that is, to your divine nature. And as you breathe and exhale, focus now on your heart center. Visualize a brilliant golden flame within your heart center. As you see this brilliant golden light grow brighter within your heart center. And as you breathe and exhale, feel your body becoming lighter and lighter. As you feel this universal life force energy, source codes, as it runs through your entire being, as it nourishes you, connects you, allows you to ground now into the higher dimension of reality in which you have now entered. And as you breathe and exhale, visualize your intention now at the bottom of your feet. As you visualize now roots going beneath you, as they grow deep beneath you, and as they go deep within you, they reach the heart of Mother Gaia, the heart of all life here, the heartbeat that connects you on Gaia with all your brothers and sisters here in the cosmic dance of creation. As you breathe and exhale, you see your brilliant rose pink light. This is the heart of Mother Gaia. You see this rose pink light emanating in unconditional love. And as your roots enter this brilliant rose pink light, you give her thanks for this interaction, and she gives you her love. She gives you further activations, codes to assist you in your internal connection with her, in your internal connection with all of life. And she sends you her love, her unconditional love. And then you see this brilliant rose pink light with golden reflections enter back up the roots beneath you, traveling back up beneath you as it now enters your feet. And as this brilliant rose pink Gaia love move up to your body, nourishing your body, connecting your body, as it moves now into your heart center, an explosion of colors emanates from your heart center as you now become the rainbow of light. As you emanate the rays of the Elohim, the rays of source creation. And as you breathe and exhale, focus on your heart. Focus now on your surroundings. As you awaken to the new, to the remembered, to the connected. And when you are ready, you may open your eyes. Remember that you are loved. Remember that you are one. Remember you are connected with all that is, and all that is within you. Farewell.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you for this amazing moment. So
Welcome back,
powerful
everybody.
as always. Welcome to you too. Okay, can you hear me well? Because I just tuned down my mic, so I hope it's fine. All right, so time to go into our topic today, equality. It's one word tonight, but it's a one word that has so many meanings for us, and we can go in so many levels of interpretation for this concept, this word, this state of being, because there are all of that. First of all, I wanted to go into the equality that is requested by so many, by minorities. So many minorities that are going around saying, you are not treating us as equals, you are treating us as less than, and we want that to stop. And well, it's not stopping for now, but well, we have an evolution. We can see the evolution. We can see that reality is changing in that way of treating, whether it's women, whether it's the LGBTQ plus community, whether it's people of color, etc., etc. There is an evolution there. Still, however, we are still not equal, and we are still requesting that equality, so much of it. And then that's one way of seeing it. Well, it's evolving, but maybe not fast enough for many. But the reality is that there is no equality yet. And so from there, we have racism, we have hate crimes, we have a lot of things that are perpetrated in order to keep people always in that state of inferiority, so that there needs to be more request of being equal, being equal under the law, because we are so into inequality that we need laws to to bring back people into equality. In my country, here in Switzerland, we need to put in our constitution that women are equal to men. Can you imagine that? Sorry, just stop for a second and think that we need to put in our constitution that women are equal to men. Are you kidding me? Do we even have to think about it? Do we even have to question it? Yes, because we need to put it in the constitution. So that clearly clearly we perceive women as inferior, because if we didn't perceive women as inferior, we wouldn't put in the constitution that they are equal. So, and I love this perception of the law, because the law, we are in a time where we are making laws about everything. Literally everything. Something's going wrong with society, let's do a law. It's gonna be better when we have a law, right? Yes, well, no, it's not going to be better. It never works. However, we try that way. That's a way that we have as humans to go into a state where we can say, well, now it's better. Now we're trying to get somewhere with this. However, we can see that, and I can still give the example of Switzerland, it is that it's in the constitution that women are equal to men, and still women are in the minority in every position that is important in the country, in everything that is to CEO, with all of those things. Women are less and less paid, 20 to 30 and sometimes even 50% less than men, etc., etc., right? It's still there, and still in the constitution it is said you have to give equality. And if you go in a court of law, good luck, because even if the constitution is saying that you have equality, they are not necessarily going to go in the sense of equality, right? So that is the way it is. And Switzerland is not an exception, is the ordinary, is what is happening in every country, right? So I'm not singling out Switzerland. I'm just giving Switzerland as the example of nearly every country in the world. And this is one thing, right? Equality as the law, equality as something that we are reaching out to obtain as a minority. And we are all part of a minority. Everyone. There is no one that is not in a minority for one reason or another. It doesn't matter. We are all into a minority, but for some reason, right, there is always a majority oppressing a minority. So it's a fight. But then now we have what is the point of view of the human, what is happening in our reality. Then we now can just go and reach out for a higher perspective, where I say, yes, okay, but why then can we treat women as inferior? Why can we treat a lesbian as inferior? Why a gay is inferior, right? Why is it possible? Clearly, because there is something in the person that is in that minority, that is expressing that minority, that gives them a sense of unworthiness, that allow discrimination to be done against them. That is my perspective. It's not possible, because then, if that was not the case, you wouldn't have women that are able to be and stay equal to men. There are women and everything else, but let's stay with women. There are women that can reach positions of CEO, position of equality with men, and no one in the entire world will be able to go to that woman and tell her you are inferior and stay alive and go away with that, right? When someone is equal inside, someone is worth inside, and no one can go and take that worthiness, that equality away from them. So in our society, in the way that we perceive our society and our creation, there is that something that makes it possible to women and etc., to feel unworthy when confronted with men, when confronted with someone else in the society, that allows discrimination to be done and puts the person in a situation where they are not able to react, to assess their power, to assess their equality. And so that's one way to work around inequality, is to recognize that unworthiness that we feel inside of us related to our society, and that puts ourselves in that inferiority, that we are not. Because inequality is not built in, inequality is something that we express as a feeling that we learn. Because no one of us creates ourselves unequal, because we are equal as creation. In creation, no one is more than or less than or whatever. We are all equal in all of creation. So when we come here as human beings, suddenly we feel that white male is better than me because it's a white male. And I have to bow to them because, well, that's what it's expected. And I'm not worthy to stand up and say, I will not bow to you because you are not better than me. You are exactly the same thing as me. And so then we have to see that we enter into something that allows us to see this pattern, this way of expressing, and then to go into a acceptance. We have to accept this because that's what we're doing and that's what we are expressing. And then once we, as a society, as a creation, as a global consciousness, we shift that into awareness, and then we let go of that, well, we will allow women, or even better, women in that awareness will be able themselves to free themselves of that perceived inferiority. It's not men that can make women equal. It's women that can, with the help, right? It's a co-work. We have all to do that together, but it's when you are in that feeling of inferiority, of unworthiness, when you go out of that, then you come into your equality naturally, because that's what you are, natural, right? It's absolutely what you are. And then no one will ever be able to put you into any situation of inferiority, because once you perceive yourself as what you really are, well, then it is it, right? All right, I wanted to say this, and now let's go with who's wanted to come in.
I guess I'll jump in because some of what you've been saying, yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. When you think about men and women, generally speaking, the classical sort of upbringing just from the world, or maybe even our parental structure, has given us this idea that men are like the leaders of the house, like the man's in charge, father knows best, that sort of idea. But if you actually look at it genetically speaking, women, technically speaking, come before men, because just a scientific fact is, why do men have nipples, for example? They have it because every man starts as a woman before the XX chromosomes are changed to XY. So technically speaking, the species seems on a genetic level to actually be more feminine than masculine. The fact that we live reverse than that illustrates how separated we are in our own state of consciousness and our own physical expressions to like who we like inherently are, like on the most practical physical level. And I think that's very telling of how far away we actually are from recognizing ourselves totally. I think that a lot of what gets, I don't know, applauded, I guess, as being the characteristics and qualities of masculinity, the more logical mind, the practical mind, the thinking mind, are more the tools of the feminine expression, which is more natured to what the universe is in its expression. And so those tools work for the point, which is actually in principle feminine in nature. And that's actually the true expression of what a human being is in principle. For a number of different reasons, we were separated from that, and we no longer have like a correct view of what it actually is in principle. And because of that polarization, everything splits and separates. I would say that fear is probably the reason why all of us live in this kind of inferiority, superiority complex. And the fear essentially is something that protects us. It manages our lives. It helps us like function on a day-to-day level. So anytime we come against someone who is in the opposite, how do you say, like footprint of themselves, like the opposite structure. So a man meets a woman, those elements that are foundational to those people, with the fear that each of them contain, create the idea of separation. We each trigger ourselves into our own polarization from ourselves. So whereas you might be a man, you might be triggered by a woman's femininity, and that would scare you because that's an element of yourself that you're not fully embodied in. And so you don't see how you are one with that person. And if you just think about those two genders just in principle, which I think is really getting to the heart of it for Max to like bring that up, is like in the highest state of being, physically, emotionally, mentally, like in all levels of that connection that men and women have, that's like an ecstasy point that creates the physical foundation of what allows life to manifest in reality. Now, if you think about that on the highest level, right, those two things are required for each to operate. Those two things are equal to one another. They're not better or worse than. You need one to help create that third. You need one to be with you to help create that third level of reality, to create that ecstasy point that allows childbirth to occur. And that's the same thing for everything that operates in life. Like anytime you want to manifest anything, anytime you want to align to something that works in your favor, it's not so much the masculine idea of pushing forward and forcing things. It's more like just allowing things to slip into place so that you work in harmony like you do already with all that is. And a simple example I could say is like the relationship that we have with trees, for example. Our waste is what they survive on, and vice versa. We are in an endless circle with one another. We are in a state of oneness with that. And that is the same principle that exists everywhere in life. So anything that works in harmony, anything that is intelligent, anything that manifests or creates is really like an allowance, which is really a feminine principle, an allowance of allowing reality physically to manifest itself in the manner you desire. As long as it is in harmony with all that is, you will have the highest amount of success in any way, shape, and form that you can look for it. But it is not a masculine principle in that sense. That is only a product of the divorcing of ourselves that we experience by incarnating in a polarized experience of what reality is. So just in principle, once that fear is lessened, more of the love that is the experience of a oneness, of the equality with you, with all things, can be naturally experienced. And there is no drag, there's no obstruction, there's no interruption, there's no stress, there's no disharmony. Everything works in seamlessness. And that idea of oneness effortlessly is revealed just by the allowance of your fear to diminish. This can happen in a number of ways, but generally speaking, the simplest thing is to just allow yourself to enjoy all of who you are to the fullest extent. And not only will you not see differences, you will see yourself in the most different person, being, experience, whatever it might be that may seem alien to you, will be exactly you looking at yourself in the mirror. And that's just simply the recognition, the embodied recognition of the equality of all things.
Thank you. And imagine this, because we are in a patriarchal society where men are physical, stronger, etc., etc. But imagine if you are in a matriarchal society. Will the physicality be the same? I don't think so. I think it will be reversed. So if we have we reach a equal society between men and women, what is going to happen to the physicality, to expression, right?
I can answer that one.
Go ahead.
Only because I've channeled on this extensively. So yeah, I just want to bring on what you said, Max and Summer. So the whole rising of the divine feminine masculine consciousness. Well, we all know about what, we've all heard of the rising of the feminine consciousness, right? So the divine masculine and feminine consciousness, that's represented in our society. We see that separation. We see males and females. We also, because of this, it manifests as a perception of separation, right? So everything's separate to us, duality. So what's happening now with, the rising of the feminine consciousness, we're activating the feminine consciousness, what someone said, the principles, those codes within the males, and vice versa. The females are activating the masculine principles within them. So basically, the feminine and masculine consciousness, it's not, yes, it is represented as a gender as well, but that's just one perception, one aspect of it. It's actually a consciousness, and it's in both males and females. So what's happening? We are now activating and rebalancing that within us, right? And what that and how that happens is we as a collective are at a certain frequency now where we have the women have got to a point as a gender has been now able to empower themselves in such a way that it's created a balance, a collective consciousness balance to such a point. Yes, I know it might be perceived that there's no equality with males and females, but we have got to a certain point, a vibrational vicinity where there is a equilibrium. It's in a range, and because of that, it's activated this within our very vessel. So what's happening is that it's actually changing our DNA. So this whole perception of the female and a male, like you might be able to see, yes, this definitely looks like a male, this definitely looks like a female. So what's happening, and yes, it won't happen overnight, but this activation, the rebalance of the divine feminine within us, it's actually changing our DNA, our light bodies and our physical DNA. So we are physically changing. So the actual, because there is no separation, you can't balance the divine feminine masculine energy within us without it changing our physical appearance, without our physical structure. There's no connect, there's no separation. So over time, so like, it's not going to happen overnight, right? So guys, you're not going to grow boobies overnight, all right? But so what's happening to our race is that we're activating not just our galactic DNA within us, it's going to also shape our appearance, but the whole divine feminine masculine is shaping our physical nature. So that bridge between what is a female, what is a male, that line's going to become more and more blurred and emerging together. Like we talk of you know, and no, we're not really on the subject, but like ET races, you know, and in some races, there is no male or female gender. Look at the archangels. There are, yes, some might have a bit more masculine energy, but they don't assign themselves to masculine or you know, female beings. So because we as a collective are very much attached to duality, even though this is an illusion, we are oneness and unity consciousness. This rebalancing that we are now going through, the Great Awakening consciousness, it's actually helping us to remember our oneness state. So this perception of equality has actually been for us. It's part of a, okay, you might, from a third dimensional perspective, of course, you can see equality as something as unwanted because it has caused human suffering. We know this, but like, for instance, if you look at the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King, you know, he came up, just for an example, right? He came from a point of knowing he's worthy, knowing that he's worthy as being equal, and he stood in his power, being able to speak assertively with what he preferred. So with that motion, he inspired so many generations, and it actually, you know, lifted a whole part of our society up in the world. So these things are part of our human evolution. It sends love, right, in a certain direction, helps to bring us, to unify us. So these things that happen, these major events that happen around the world, certain inequality in our society, from a higher perspective, it's part of the polarity system, but it's all for us to eventually go within, to find our power, to stand in our power, to express our power, and that helps us to create even more unity. So basically, the movement towards separation and unity is happening on many different levels, and what we perceive to be, you know, desire to stand up for equality, and also like divine feminine masculine principles. So there's many things happening, even like on the soul contract level, pre-birth intentions, right? Like, I know as a counselor, it's very common for instance, if you look at domestic violence, you look at power imbalances, it's in the family circles, right? Family dynamics in the family system. There's, if you look back, because if you do like a family tree, you will find there is a pattern with your family, your parents, their parents. You can trace it back, the perception of power imbalances, right? Very, very interesting. But you might think, okay, I'm a victim here. However, we choose our parents pre-birth. So for instance, the ancestry line, you know, we choose our parents we're born into, and perhaps we choose parents who are in this dynamic of, you know, power imbalances, let's just say. And that's allowed us to then be conditioned through our family upbringing to then perceive ourselves as not as worthy as opposed to men, even though we might think we're worthy and equal, but there's some beliefs here that we've adopted through our family system. That's just one example of how, you know, for instance, pre-birth intentions gets in the mix here. Also with that, with the women, as you know, there's many timelines in which the female was disempowered, you know, females standing up, you know, in love were burnt on the stake, you know this history. But then of course there are dimensions where it's the opposite, and women were in power. So yes, we're multidimensional beings, but let's just say, you know, we are all connected to all our multidimensional lives. So as women, we do come in with sort of, you know, if it's part of our soul contracts or pre-birth intentions, we come forth with some imprints from those lives in which perhaps we were persecuted for being a woman, being a strong woman, and so forth. So as a woman, you do come through this life of, depending on your soul contracts, of course, which we explore here, not everyone comes through with, you know, contracts related to that persecution, but let's just say there's so many dynamics happening at once, right? That's creating the illusion of inequality. But whatever circumstance we find ourselves in, we are truly not victims here. And it's all happening for the human evolution. So if you find yourself in a section of society where there is, like in like a third dimensional perspective, there is inequality, you'll find, especially now, those aspects of society are rising up, right? And that rising up is creating movements of energy, and that's creating a unity consciousness within us. So all these
aspects of a separated society, as they become empowered, they unite all those aspects of society. So internally, because there is no separation, what happens in our physical world is happening within our consciousness within us. Then it helps to further activate unity consciousness within us, right? So whatever you see on the world and whatever you see that's happening in our greater society and the movements of empowerment, that's happening within us, within our consciousness. So where we are today is that we're in that movement, remembering our oneness state. We're now rebalancing the divine feminine masculine within each and every one of us. It's creating a need for like balance in our life now. It's about, for instance, if some people were more inclined to divine masculine principle of, you know, what Summer said with the male, you know, to really kind of, you know, we perceive it to be control and to really be strong-minded with the ego mind. Now it's about navigating in your heart center. It's about allowance, what Summer said. It's about tapping into our intuitive senses. So it's a different way of operating now. We were conditioned to control our reality, to express our reality through the ego mind, right? Now, in this time of the greatest evolution of consciousness, we have been asked to now lead from the heart center, to be in the heart center. Now, the perception of power, instead of power over others as an inequality, it is now power from the heart. It is now, instead of having boundaries and a perception of hierarchy, it's now being a place of vulnerability. So now power is vulnerability. So it's kind of counterintuitive. We think power is someone that's strong-willed and is kind of power, you know, power over dynamic. But now in the rebalancing, true power is vulnerability, showing the world who you are in a vulnerable place, compassion, being assertive in speaking for what you prefer. So just because you're being vulnerable and heart-centered doesn't mean you don't speak out of love, act out of love. So yeah, there's a lot of dynamics happening. We're seeing this reflected in our outer societies, but at the end of the day, it's all for evolution to remember our oneness state.
Thank you, Kimberly. And before going with Nikki, I wanted to say look at how the change has been starting. I've been talking with Jane Austen. Yeah, I've been talking with Jane Austen, and talking with her and going through her books, her novels. She told me, look how I've written certain things that are normally perceived as being in a certain way, meaning in the 19th century, a woman should have been begging a man to marry her, and any marriage proposal a woman will receive, she will just say yes, especially if the marriage proposal will come from a male perceived from a superior, right? And she wrote her books, especially her main, Sense and Sensibility, and she wrote these books where the female refused to marry a superior man many times, not just one, twice, 3 times. And I realized, look at these little things in literature where the structure of society is just broken and a woman says no to one of the richest men in the country. That's not normal in that society. So that's a way we change. Nikki.
Wait, I just actually wanted to say something to what Kimberly was saying too about power. It's almost like switching the concept of power from almost like like being like a statue to like being a window. Because if you have a window, you can see the entire universe. You can see like that beautiful island landscape you have behind you, Max, that I know is like not legit, but you get the point, right? Like if you have an empty space, if you have that openness, that's where the universe can flow through you. And that's more of like a true concept of like what power is. Because the power isn't with the person, the power is like everything. So what would you rather, try to like build all the muscle inside, or like use the entire universe to help you like flow and function? I think that's really the point. And the whole concept of people dominating other people is because they're not in that power themselves. They don't actually have that sense of power. And when they do, it's more, it like the polarization will reverse. You will like empower other people because it becomes easier, effortless, and joyful for everyone to have that amount of power. So many lights shining make the whole world like just a brilliant light. And that's just like the nature of like what it really means to be empowered and in love and in the new kind of energy that we're all like bathing in right now. So I just want to add that.
Love that. You know, it's funny, I'm reading The Bostonians, which was written by Henry James in the 19th century. And it's also a story about a couple of women who are suffragettes and who don't want to get married. And they're pushing for women's rights. So that's kind of funny that we're reading similar literature right now. Which is crazy to be reading that during my vacation, but I promised myself I'd finish it while I was here. And I absolutely love what both Kimberly and Summer have said about the joy and the power that comes with being heart-centered. And I was so happy, Max, that you talked about how sad it is and how wrong it is, because that is the voice of the general public, I think, you know, and they have a right to have that voice, you know, it's important. And what Kimberly was saying about how all these, you know, these groups of minorities or, you know, people in this victim role that have this niche, it serves a purpose. And I was thinking how like the personal, everything in my reality is a reflection of my beliefs and thoughts. And as a collective, we also have that mirror, you know. And I was thinking this thing about allowance. It's like, you know, the power and the true empowerment that Summer was talking about. I've been experiencing it. It's super interesting because so I've come to my my homeland because I've lived in France almost 30 years, and I'm here in Florida, and I'm with my sister. And of course, family is always a wonderful experience for triggers, right? But it's been really interesting to see how I have expanded and how I'm having, it's not that I'm not having triggers and I'm allowing myself to have them, but I'm moving beyond them. And I've been connecting a lot with my guides and taking time in the morning to meditate, to channel, and to process. And it was so interesting because I had this build up of like a myriad of emotions, because in one day with a family member, I can go through all of it, you know, anger, fear, all these different sadness, all these different things. And I kept getting the word from my guides, which was compassion, compassion. And it was like compassion for myself first, you know, because it's like a roller coaster. And then the quiet, empowering presence of knowing who I am and being able to uh, express my preferences. And that's new. Okay, that's new. And that's what happens when you move from fear to love through that process of peeling the onion, as Kimberly was saying. And so, you know, when we flippantly say, move into more joy, you know, it seems like an impossible task. And when I began this journey so long ago, they were just words to me. I had no idea what they're talking about because my joy was always sourced from external conditions. And I have to say, you know, it's really amazing when through the work of identifying my beliefs when I'm triggered and processing them. And for me, really, like I just went out to the swimming pool and I just cried. I needed to get it out. And I started wiggling and shaking, you know, the body, just moving the physical body is really helpful. And then like I did a voice memo because I didn't have anybody to call because I don't have the phone service. So I did a little voice memo and I went through it all. And it's like allowing myself to time to process my emotions gives me so much relief. And once I've processed my emotions, I can go in and identify those limiting beliefs that are really stopping me from feeling that joy. And it's just so cool. And so when we're talking about moving from, you know, inequality to equality, victim to, you know, like being the creator of my reality, this is the process. And so I'm just here to say that it friggin' works, because that's the test of time. When you go back to your family of origin and you're put in these situations. And another thing I want to say, because we talked about spiritual bypassing last Ascension Roundtable, and I found myself in my head going, I was being judgmental, and then I was judging myself for judging, and I was like, um, I'm having a human experience. I'm on the planet Earth, and this is how it works, right? I'm having this human experience. And I had to really like just connect with my inner child and say, you're doing so well. Like, it's okay, you know, because there's a part of me that thinks I'm superhuman and I'm supposed to breeze through all of this and stay in this expanded, aligned state. But that's not how it works at all. So I have to feel the contrast, and I really have to feel it. And I'm saying this for myself, and I'm saying it for everyone else. Feeling the contrast, allotting time to feel the feelings, to find them in my body. And it's funny because I see with my sister lots of physical ailments. So this is, to me, a witness to what happens when you're not allowing yourself to process your emotions, and when you see yourself as a victim. And yeah, so yeah, allotting myself time to actually, even if I don't know what the emotion is, to just feel it, and then to begin to process the limiting belief, talk to that younger version of myself that was there when all of that was formed. And then I can come around to a place. And it's amazing because once I came through all of that, I had so much compassion for myself, for my family. And then I was like, oh, wow, this is my experience. And the appreciation for my now moment was so incredible. And so, yeah, it's beautiful when you realize how worthy you are, that you're just as worthy as your neighbor, as your sister, as the person on television, as the girl in the magazine. You're just as worthy, and that you can have love, not just for those close to you, for yourself, for those close to you, but also for those you don't even know. You know, I went to get my nails done, my toenails, and I walked in, and my first thought was like, ooh, this looks kind of shabby, and they wanted only cash, and I'm like, ah. And then like this Vietnamese angel lady did my toes, and I just closed my eyes, and I was like, I could see a halo around her. It was like she was an angel, and angels come in all forms. So sometimes you have to close your eyes and move into your heart center, and appreciate the now. Thank you.
Wow, so wonderful things tonight. Yeah, it's amazing, and I was thinking of you talk about our last topic, spiritual bypassing and worth, my worth, right? They're discovering it, and I was thinking about this because we can see, I was seeing reading the other day something about someone entering into the legend of their sport. There is no one better than them, and I was oh wow, look at that. And I was thinking, into the legend There is no legend. So I have to understand with that everyone else is just forgotten forever, and just that one is there in history. And I know, no, we are all into history. And I love this thing of really realizing, oh, yes, I can be the king of everything, and I can have a slave doing everything for me. Well, that slave is in history as much as me as king. And there is absolutely in history no difference done between the one that is perceived as the highest and the one that is perceived as the lowest. Well, in history and in creation, actually, well, they are absolutely equal, and they are as important as the one as the other. And in fact, in creation, the one doesn't exist without the other. Oh, so suddenly you realize how all these things that we are telling ourselves about hierarchy and about one better and this kind of thing, suddenly they just, you look at them and suddenly they lose any meaning. And really, it's just a story. It's just a way of giving ourselves an identity, of saying I'm better than you, because then I feel alive, I feel real, because then, wow, right? But then now it goes away. And in this, we have the base of what we can say, the equality, the thing that when we go beyond what is the illusion, well, everyone is there. Anyone is absolutely equal. And that and for me, that right, I spoke before about this thing of equality between men, women, and every minority, but that is what we do as human, right? The human reality, that's what is happening. So we are in duality, we have this fight, but this, that, okay, that's okay. But then we let go of that, and we realize that, as we have said, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, yeah, all of that, right? We have all that, and we are all expressing male and female at the same time. We cannot not have all of that in us. We are all of that. And so that, right, when you are against transgender, you are against this, against that, but well, you are against yourself in the end of the day, because transgender, I absolutely am sure that in one of your life you've been transgender. I'm absolutely sure. So and there you say, well, what is the meaning of that? Well, it's the experience. We are having experiences, and inequality or equality is a human experience. That's what it is. Wow. Anyone else with anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to say to Nikki that it's you said you're not superhuman, but the truth is you are. You're not superhuman, you're superhuman. And that's really the whole point of like literally where those powers come from. When you see like those kinds of individuals who have that like super strength and things like that, this is literally where it comes from. It's the opposite of what people think it is. It's by allowing more openness, that level of like connection with all things, like you have access to now. And I also wanted to say to what Max was saying, there's a whole, how do I say this? It's like reality on the physics level. Let's just talk about the physics level for a second. It's already kind of set. So it's established. So any kind of like advancement isn't so advanced as what you might think. It's more like creating more windows to spirit. So like creating more and more levels of subtle complexity to allow that spiritual essence to shine through the first density level, which is all just like the elementals, like stones, things that don't change, they don't grow. That's a characteristic of that spirit kind of like showing through reality. So when you think of something like, for example, the cell phones that we have, when we had the old punch phones where there were physical buttons, it was a lot more limited than what we can do with a modern day, smartphone with a touch screen. And the touch screen is that much more vulnerable and susceptible to break or like damage or like a lot of other problems that come with it than that simplistic, very like rudimentary punch phone was. But that's really going more towards the level of like what power actually is. It's that vulnerability, it's that subtlety, it's that level of, in a sense, kind of like allowance, where it isn't so physically hard and established in a way that is unmovable, unchangeable. It's more fluid. It allows one thing to be whatever it needs to be to allow the maximum usage and interaction with reality in the best possible ways. Now on our cell phones, we can surf the internet, we can watch movies, we can take pictures, we can do all sorts of things from something that used to just be a simple panel with numbers on it. And if you think about the difference of like how we're, even on the technological level, migrating in our consciousness towards a more openness, a more beautiful level of subtle complexity, we're more now touching that realm of spirit, because that's really the level that it operates at, that openness, that window to all that is, that creation, where we recognize and reclaim like who we are. We reclaim ourselves spiritually in physicality. And that's really like what, going back to what Kimberly was talking about, the alteration of the DNA. In many senses, I don't see it so much as altering, not that it isn't, it is altering, but it's more aligning to its blueprint to allow the complete embodiment of spirit in reality. And that is like that heaven-like joy of being children, no matter how old you are, being children in physics and saying, wow, this is so amazing, this is so fun, and developing the different levels of complexity and interaction with all things in reality. Like heaven on earth it's not something we're building in the masculine sense, we're something we're like rediscovering. It already exists, we're just so far away from it. It's almost like when your foot falls asleep. It's like that. It's like all the infrastructure is there. Everything is meant to work. We're just slowly starting to wake it up and say, oh, this does more than just lie there like a slab, like on a chair or something, right? It can actually move around. There's lots of things you can do with it. And it's just like that with our reality. The whole reality wakes up, and there's all kinds of like amazingly beautiful, subtle experiences that come with that lighter perception of what it means to be alive. So that's really where we're going to now. And where we are too, like what we've already achieved in this day and age. So
I love what you said, Summer, and it's exactly what's happening as we remember more of our oneness state, as we integrate our inner shadows, our separated selves, as we increase our self-worth, as we start to see our reality through the eyes of source by actively seeing the oneness in all. That's when, like you said, we activate our superpowers, because we then embody our God self. We become source realized. So all these, abilities that we have, once we align more to our oneness state, once we can start seeing the unity and all that is when we embody the God self, and we actually bring forth those the abilities, and that's when we experience joy, and the perception of duality and fear becomes lesser and less. And yes, polarity is a system of the universe, right? From single point source origin expands itself, creating polarity. But as the human collective, as we're going through this great evolution of consciousness, this polarity becomes, at the moment, on one end of the spectrum, like the fear of the polarity as suffering. But as we are moving closer to oneness remembrance, yes, we still have a polarity, but the suffering becomes less and less, right? So we are bridging unity, and this is when you'll naturally know that we are one. It takes one step at a time, and
much integration, but you know, we're there, and it's really about allowance, and again, living from the heart center and being from the heart center, not being afraid to express your power in love, because I know there's a lot of people at the moment who are actually fearful of power, fearful of their own power, right? And there's still some perceptions of power, as you know, maybe power could be corruptible, maybe if people see me in power, what's going to happen? And it's the whole dynamic power is changed. It's really from standing in your divinity, you know. Yes, even if by you speaking up, yes, even if it triggers people, you know, if you're speaking from a point of love, acting in a point of love, you know that whatever happens is always for the highest good of all involved. So it's kind of trusting the universe more, trusting your divinity, trusting the flow. If you can raise your frequency to the point where you can increase your self-love and self-worth, that is when you really tap into the flow of the universe moving through you. And yeah, and also to have a bit of fun along the way. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, everyone. I think so I don't see any questions. So let's see if we want to keep going or if we just put an end to it. What do you say?
I just wanted to say one thing to what Kimberly was saying, that it's not just having a little fun along the way. It's that you end up going into the center of fun until you become it. And that's the point. That's the recognition of spirit, physically speaking. That's what it feels like. It feels like what children feel like when they're young. They don't know any separation, so they're just one, just like many animals and things like that, which is why if you leave animals in nature to like grow themselves and learn themselves, they generally become very healthy if they don't have like human influences. But yeah, it's that level of like passion and fun that's like health, and everything works, but it literally takes you into the dream level reality, so that it's physically awake in the dream that we think is different than when we go to sleep, but we're not actually coherent yet of what the reality actually is. And when you have those levels, that's when you start to see things, and that like it's like everything becomes like fun, everything becomes like this joyful, like you could say a spiritual experience, but if you were to like make a more modern representation, it's more like you're in a playground, like you're in like almost like this really fun movie or video game that's all about you, and it's not completely real, but it's just unbelievably real in the most amazing way, so that you can see that it's like a fun kind of like game from your bigger, quieter, powerful sense coming through this like very, very pinpoint in creation and experiencing itself from this very, very small, like finite kind of level. It's like it's just the reclamation of that. It's like what people say, it's just waking up. Like when it comes down to it, to say it the most simple that you can, you just wake back up into the dream. And that's that.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to that, just to because it's fun to do it. I was thinking, you know, like I spent the entire day, a couple of days at the pool, and I hung out in nature. I wanted to be in nature, and I would like read a little bit, and then I'd swim, and then I'd look at the sky, and I'd look at the river, and I was having so much fun. And then like my sister has this golf cart, and I said, let's go for a drive. And I was driving like on the golf cart, and she's like, there's a storm coming. And I'm like, we can make it, you know? And I realized in hindsight, like I had the spirit of a child. Like I really have been in that. And that it's true. It's not before I used to think happiness was moments, but you know, especially summer, the way you just said it, and I'm going to rewatch this so that I can listen to that part again. It's true. It's like you become the fun, and every moment, I would say almost every moment, almost every moment is fun. And the thing about it is even the contrast. I wouldn't say it's fun, but it's interesting. It's become more interesting because I know moving through that contrast, first of all, accepting it, and then I know when I do move through it and get to the other side, there's even more expansion. And that's the fun when you can move into a place of neutrality as the observer. Oh, right. Okay. Like there was a point where I froze and I was unable to state my preference. And then afterwards, it was really bothering me. And I was able to go back and give compassion to my younger self. And I realized I was so triggered that I went back to like freeze state. And you know, that's like a physiological thing when you can't speak your needs because you're tongue tied and you're in a state of fear. Then there's only one thing you can do, and that's to have compassion for yourself. You know, and take baby steps. Baby steps. Things change over time. And I have been one impatient spiritual adventuress, and I've become much more patient now. So yeah, it's all good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for this amazing evening and moment with all of you. This has been really fun to share this with all of you and everyone that has been watching. Well, actually, everyone that is been watching in any moment in time, because we know that you are watching now. So thank you to everyone, and we will see you in 2 weeks time, in a fortnight. I love it, fortnight. And Kimberly, right, will be hosting. Is it correct?
Yeah, I'm fine to go next. All good.
Fantastic. So goodbye everyone, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.